But our next guest says Republicans caused the country's financial problems by decades of unpaid-for tax cuts for the mega-rich. Joining us now, Congressman Brendan Boyle, the lead Democrat on the Budget Committee. That doesn't sound like we're going to make much progress if both sides are so entrenched. So you don't think the Democrats share any blame for the 31 trillion, 32 trillion that we have in deficits now, Congressman?
Yeah, great to be with both of you. And as a viewer of the show, I always enjoy these interviews when now I'm on the other side of it. So in terms of, our roughly $31 trillion of debt, slightly more than half has been added under Republican presidencies. My point was to push back on the argument that Republicans often make that somehow deficit and debt is only Democratic created. The overall point, though, that I want to make here when it comes to the debt ceiling is, despite, obviously Chairman Arrington and I have a different point of view when it comes to this. Despite that, though, that should not impact, and I don't believe will impact, the raising of the debt ceiling. Congress has raised the debt ceiling more than 80 times since 1960, has never failed to raise the debt ceiling. It's our fiscal responsibility. We must do it. And I do believe ultimately we will. But I am concerned about just how much of a roller coaster it might be, kind of like 2011, which actually led to the first ever credit downgrade in American history.
How would you handle it if you were someone that, even in your party, if you decided, you know what, we really have to get a handle on this debt because it's going to start impacting GDP growth, Medicare and Social Security need to be at least dealt with in some way so that it's not, when people get to a certain age 10 years from now, so that it's not insolvent, so it's not gone. So there are things that need to be done. You just would not use the debt ceiling to do that? The president says he won't negotiate. The Republicans say this is our only chance to try to get some type of movement in terms of dealing with these things.
Yeah, well, it is funny. Republicans only talk about this issue when they're in control of Congress and there's a Democrat in the White House. Just a few years ago,
and
when
vice versa, though.
Congress,
I mean, this is just the finger pointing gets us nowhere, Congressman. What is your solution to try? What should we do to try to deal with the 31 trillion? Should we keep doing omnibus? Should we keep doing omnibus?
The record, though, because there's a lot of argument of convenience on the other side. In terms of the debt ceiling, this is why we need to raise it. First, I mean, when I had Secretary Mnuchin in front of me some years ago on Ways and Means, obviously Republican Treasury Secretary in a Republican administration. When I asked him to describe the consequences if we ever failed to raise the debt ceiling, he responded it was absolutely unimaginable that it would be such a cataclysmic event. I, as a Democrat, voted 3 times to raise the debt ceiling under a Republican president. So I've been pretty consistent on this. Raising the debt ceiling is about paying for debt that we already rang up. It's like, if you're a household and you went out with the credit card and then a month later you get the credit card bill for the spending you already made, that you decide not to pay that bill. So we need to raise the debt ceiling more than anything else.
Right. Well, that'll happen.
Think it'll happen.